And the last question too I was going to ask is, well, not the last question I'm going to ask you today, but as far as penetration testing, it's like, what's the difference between like a pen test, a security assessment? I'm trying to see any of the other things that you guys send to like IR and SOC teams that we may see on the network. But I guess like, what is the biggest difference? Because I always have people say, "Yeah, I want to be a pen tester or whatever," and
Right.
probably kind of distinguishing like between pen testing and just being on the red team and maybe some of the various red team roles that we don't really talk about as much outside of like ethical hacking and pen testing.
Absolutely. That's a good question. So first, we'll start off with the penetration testing, right? So penetration tests are done within organizations in order to find exploitable vulnerabilities in your environment and seeing how far you can take those exploits. So for example, like I said, most people have a penetration test once per year or so to kind of just evaluate their defense to see how things are going. And those penetration tests normally involve, hey, can we compromise the domain controller, right? Or some type of really high value target or asset. So the penetration testers come in, they run their scans, they find vulnerabilities within any Windows systems that will allow them to see a path in order to get to that high value target, right? Now, penetration tests are known by everyone on the security team, as in they're aware of the actual penetration test happening. So there is you don't have to worry about detections or anything. You are well aware of what's happening. And what's nice about it is that you can see whether your defenses are actually working because you know exactly what systems are being attacked by or during that penetration test. When it comes to red teaming is a different animal because normally in red teaming, the blue team is not aware, or rather is not informed that it's actually happening. That is a very covert operation that says, hey, we have some high value target or some high value asset, but now we're not going to tell the blue team about it. We're going to see if they can actually detect our activity there. And that makes it very, very interesting because now the attackers have to do everything that they can in order to hide their activity from the blue team. And it's very interesting in that regard, right? So it's similar, like red teaming and penetration testing, but red teaming is more, can we do what we do without anyone seeing us, right? As opposed to penetration testing, where it's like, okay, we know that you're actually here, you're testing these systems, so on and so forth, and you're going to tell us the actual vulnerabilities there. When it comes to security assessments, that's more risk based, that's more GRC based, like as in, hey, you'll do vulnerability scans, you'll maybe have some interviews with people, seeing what their roles are within the organization and the systems that they control, and you're effectively writing a report outlining the risk and threats that can happen towards whatever environment that you're actually evaluating, right? So that's more of a blue teamish risk assessment activity, as opposed to red teaming and penetration testing, where it's more like that's an attacker activity. We're trying to compromise something here. So yeah, that's the main difference between those three activities.
Got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day, I was doing a consultation with someone. I think they had like various experience, and I was telling them like, you possibly could look into doing some like vulnerability management work to where you could potentially pivot onto the red side of things, maybe just kind of just understanding some things with using like a Nessus or a Qualys or Rapid7 and doing all that fun stuff that they get to do, or the headaches of when what they say when the rubber hits the road.
Yes.
When there's an act of like 0 day and now you guys are scrambling around how you're going to patch everything. And like you said, hey, this software is not going to work with this version of this. And what is our, risk tolerance and acceptance for all this? Like all the freaking non-technical, but yet business use cases of like what's happening when this stuff going on, and just praying that, we don't get hit by this stuff. I think that's like the fun part and always the challenge. And if you can figure things out like that, that will stick with you in your career, and it's something you always can talk about. It's like, well, hey, this situation, we couldn't do it like this, but we were able to work around it based on X, Y, Z. And, so far this company has not been, compromised or anything.
Correct. Like, yeah. And that's what a lot of people forget about security as well. Is like, there will be times where your traditional, I guess, methodologies don't work. You just can't, run a vulnerability scan and just tell someone, hey, fix this. I mean, I wish it was that easy, but no,
Right.
there's a lot of back and forth between you, the cybersecurity person, and the stakeholder of that system, and that system may have very critical business operations that, hey, we just can't patch this end of life system. It's going to break everything. Or we can't patch this part of the software because no one maintains it anymore. That person's gone, whoever, wrote the software, right? So how do you work around that? How do you put controls in place so that both sides are happy? Like, yeah, and it's a fine balance there. Like, yeah, you're effectively walking a tightrope between security and usability. So, like, like you said, it is something to put on your resume as well, to be able to say, hey, I did that. I secured this industry. I secured this software assets, whatever, in a way that, hey, all sides were happy.
Facts.